So when you want to measure your 250 grams of flour, so this is how you are going to measure it. So let us start again. This is your, you want to measure 250 grams of flour. You can see this is tin cup, tin cup. This is one of it. So this is how you're going to measure your flour. Do not do like this or like this. No, so you just have to, this is how to measure your flour. You have to put it in like this, just like the way they measure for you if you want to buy in the market. You can see it. So this is the second thing, and a little. So this is the little that is remaining after measuring your flour. You see, so this is 250 grams of flour that we're going to use for our white bread recipe. So you want to start preparation now. Make sure you see your flour. So this is to make sure that the flour is very neat and there are no particles or maggots or sand or any foreign particles inside of the flour. So you can see there are little particles inside of it. So this is our 1 tbs of sugar. In case you don't have measuring spoon, so this is 1 tbs of sugar. So we are going to use 3 of this. This is 1. So this is 2. So we have this type of spoon at home. So this is 3. So in this clip, I'm trying to show you my measuring spoon. This is half tbs of measuring spoon. There's 1 tbs also, but I couldn't find it in this video. So if you want to measure your sugar, this is how you are going to measure it for the half tbs. So that means you are going to use 2 for 1 tbs. And for your milk too, this is 1 tbs of milk powder. Look at the spoon I'm using. So that's how you are going to measure it. And if you want to use your measuring spoon too for the milk, so this is how it's going to be. I hope you can see it. And then you add a little quantity of salt, and this is just a little quantity, a little more than a pinch of salt. And then you add your nutmeg. This is optional, but you can add it. It gives your bread a very good flavor. So a little bit of nutmeg, and also if you have cinnamon also, you can also add it, a little quantity as desired. Now in this video, I want to proof my yeast. So we are using half tbs of yeast. If you don't have a measuring spoon, you can see the way I measure my half tbs of yeast. Leveled of this one, then you pour it into your container. So make sure that your yeast is not exposed to air. You can see that I'm using my hand to cover it at interval, just because I want to show you this video. Then you add just little quantity of sugar. Very little quantity of sugar is okay for it. So after adding your sugar into your yeast, then the next thing is to add your warm water. And see this water, you have to be able to touch it. It is warm water, not hot water. So this is the quantity you add very little quantity, very little quantity of the water. If you can see it, then you can now stir. So after stirring, you cover it up. So this is the process of proofing. So we are going to cover it up and allow it to proof before we use it for our bread. So this process of proofing is very, very important. It is for us to be sure that the yeast is active, so that we are not going to use a dead yeast to produce our bread, and at the end of the day the bread is not going to rise or give us what we want. So we are going to allow it to proof now before we use it in making our bread. So you can wrap it up, and place it in a warm place and allow it to proof. So after 5 minutes now, let's now check if our yeast stuff. So you can see it. So that means the yeast is active. So our yeast has properly proofed, and we can now add it into our flour. So this is our flour. So we add the proofed yeast into it. Process is very, very important, especially if you are not sure that the yeast is if you are not sure if the yeast is active or not. So you can only skip this process if you are sure that the yeast is active. So then after then we incorporate everything together. So the next thing for us now is to make our dough. So this is 1/4 cup of warm water. So you keep mixing. So you add your water little by little. Now, especially if this is your first time of baking, you have to be careful with the way you add your water. So you have to make sure you add it little by little, little by little, little by little till you get your dough. Because if you mistakenly add too much of water and your dough becomes too soft, it's going to make a mess of your bread. So you have to be very careful. And if you want to prove your yeast also, make sure you don't use too much of water to prove your yeast. You can see. So spend more energy on making your dough rather than adding your water. So I've added about half cup of water to it now. So you don't have a measuring cup. You can see the way I'm adding my water. Add it little by little, just little by little. There's a little water here. You can also use room temperature water to mix your dough. You can also use room temperature water to mix also. This is just for you to be on the safer side, so that your dough will not overrise. So we are almost there. So to knead it till it is very, very smooth. Now see the way I'm kneading it. I'm pressing, and the dough is coming together already. So the more you knead your dough, the softer it is, the softer your bread, the fluffier your bread. You can see it. Kneading also assists the yeast in making the bread rise. So once you knead, it creates a kind of heat in the dough, and it will assist the yeast to make the bread to rise, because the temperature of the dough is hot already. So you have to make sure your dough is not too hard also. This is what you got. So this is still okay. Yes. Yeah. And see now that your bowl is very neat. So now that your bowl is very neat, stove is fine. So see what we have. So it is not too hot, it is not too hard, and it is not too soft. Cover it up in nylon. I will put it in nylon. So if you have a big nylon, you can just use it to cover it up. And depending on the temperature of your environment. Now it is raining here right now as I'm making this video. So after covering it up this way, I'm going to further cover it up with another napkin just to make sure there's enough heat. And I'm taking this right away to my kitchen to make it warm. So you're going to cover it up and allow it to rise for about 30 to 40 minutes depending on the temperature of your environment. You can also allow it to rise for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, or 1 hour, but it is homemade bread, so 30 to 45 minutes it's okay. And just find a warm place to place it so that it's going to rise on time.